The security camera caught it all, her neighbor, creeping through the darkness, poison in hand, heading straight for the crystal blue water where her children would swim the next morning. What started as petty neighborhood drama was about to become something far more sinister. Because when Sarah Chen reviewed that footage, she realized this wasn't just about sabotage, this was about revenge. And her neighbor had no idea that Sarah's husband was a detective, or that the harmless chemicals she dumped would be traced back to the very lab where she worked. Justice was coming, and it would be swift, devastating, and absolutely deserved. The first thing Sarah Chen noticed when she stepped onto her back patio that Tuesday morning wasn't the acrid smell hanging in the air, it was the silence. No birds chirping, no insects buzzing, even the neighbor's, usually yapping terrier, was quiet. The second thing she noticed was her pool. The water that had sparkled crystal blue the night before now churned with an oily, greenish foam that clung to the sides like diseased algae, dead. Fish floated belly up near the filter intake, and the automatic pool cleaner sat motionless at the bottom, its sensors overwhelmed by whatever toxic cocktail now contaminated her family's sanctuary. Sarah's voice cracked as she called for her husband, her hands trembling as she pulled out her phone to dial 911. "Don't let the kids come outside." Detective Mike Chen appeared in the doorway, already reaching for his holster out of habit before taking in the scene. 23 years on the force had taught him to read crime scenes instantly, and this one screamed deliberate contamination. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, stepping carefully around the pool's perimeter. "Sarah, get inside, now, and keep Emma and Josh away from all the windows facing the backyard. But our pool is evidence now." Mike's voice carried the authority that had made him one of the department's most respected detectives. "This isn't an accident or equipment failure. Someone did this." As Sarah hurried inside to shepherd their twins away from the contaminated area, Mike began documenting everything with his phone camera. The pattern of contamination, the way it seemed concentrated near the shallow end where the kids usually played, the suspicious absence of any wildlife that would normally be drawn to water. His phone buzzed with a text from his partner. 3 more pools in Maplewood Heights hit overnight. All families with young children. Hazmat en route. Mike's jaw clenched. A serial poisoner targeting families. This just became personal. The hazmat team arrived within 20 minutes, their white suits and respirators drawing curious neighbors from their houses, despite the early hour. Mike watched from his kitchen window as they took water samples and installed ventilation equipment, his mind already working through the case details. "Daddy, why can't we swim today?" 6-year-old Emma pressed her face against the glass, her twin brother Josh standing beside her, with matching expressions of confusion and disappointment. "The pool is sick, sweetheart," Sarah said, wrapping her arms around both children. "We need the doctors to make it better." Mike caught his wife's eye over their heads. The fear there reflected his own. If the kids had gone for their usual morning, swim before school, ... His phone rang. Captain Rodriguez's gravelly voice filled the kitchen. "Chen, I know it's your house, but I need you on this. You're the best we've got for this kind of case, and it's bigger than we thought. 7 pools now, all in family neighborhoods. The lab's calling it aggressively toxic, whatever that means. I'm already on it, Cap." Mike was pulling on his jacket as he spoke. "But I want protective detail on my family until we catch this. Psychopath Don Hernandez is already on his way over." After Mike left, Sarah tried to maintain normalcy for the twins, but her attention kept drifting to the backyard. The hazmat team had cordoned off not just the pool, but a 20-foot perimeter, their equipment beeping and worry as they worked. That's when she noticed movement in her neighbor's yard. Diane Kellerman stood at her kitchen window, watching the activity with what looked like satisfaction rather than concern. When she noticed Sarah looking, she quickly stepped back from the window, but not before Sarah caught the small, triumphant smile on her face. A chill ran down Sarah's spine that had nothing to do with the morning air. Diane Kellerman had moved. 6 months ago, a recently divorced woman in her 40s who worked as a lab technician at the university's chemistry department, she'd seemed friendly enough at first, bringing over cookies and introducing herself with the desperate enthusiasm of someone trying hard to fit in. But things had soured quickly. It started with complaints about the twins playing too loudly in the backyard, then passive-aggressive comments about the pool parties disturbing her meditation time. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago when Diane called the homeowners association to complain about the children's laughter being excessive and disruptive to the neighborhood's peaceful atmosphere. Sarah had laughed it off then. Now watching, Diane peeked through her blinds at the hazmat team. She wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. Saw the news about the pool poisonings. Are you guys okay? Pool poisonings? Plural? Sarah's stomach dropped as she realized this wasn't just about their family. This was about multiple families, multiple children who could have been hurt or killed. She was about to respond when she heard a sound that made her blood freeze. The scrape of metal against wood, the same sound she'd been hearing for the past 2 weeks, always around 2 a.m., always from the direction of her fence line. The sound she'd assumed was just settling wood or nocturnal animals. Sarah grabbed the twins and headed for the front of the house, calling Mike as she walked. We need to check our security cameras. All of them, going back at least 2 weeks. Why? What's wrong? I think I know who did this, and I think she's been planning it for a while. When Mike returned home that afternoon with Detective Hernandez and a laptop full of security footage from the neighborhood, Sarah's suspicions were about to become evidence. The camera mounted on their back deck had captured everything. 2:17 a.m. 3 nights ago, a figure in dark clothing scaling the fence between their yard and Diane's, carrying what appeared to be a large container. 2:23 a.m. The same figure crouched by the pool's edge, emptying the container's contents directly into the water. 2:31 a.m. The figure scaling back over the fence, but not before looking directly at the camera and pulling down her hood. Diane Kellerman's face was clearly visible in the infrared footage, her expression cold and methodical as she contaminated the pool where 2 6-year-olds swam every morning. Mike breathed, but his satisfaction was tempered by rage. Print stills of every frame. I want this airtight. Hernandez was already on his radio, coordinating with the units at the other contaminated houses. We need to check all available security footage for this suspect and get a warrant for her house if she's got access to lab chemicals. There's no telling what else she might have. But as they watched the footage again, Sarah noticed something that made her stomach clench. Mike, look at the timestamp. She didn't just poison our pool that night. The recording showed Diane making 3 trips over the fence, each time with a different container. But the most chilling detail was captured at 2:44 a.m. Diane walking calmly back to her house, pulling out her phone and appearing to take photos of her handiwork, trophies. She was keeping trophies of her crimes. She's been documenting this, Sarah whispered. This isn't just about revenge or neighborhood disputes. She's enjoying it. Mike was already suiting up in his tactical vest. The woman who'd poisoned his children's pool, who'd put dozens of families at risk, who'd treated attempted murder like a photography hobby, was about to learn that some neighbors bite back. And as he headed for the door with Hernandez and backup units, Mike Chen allowed himself a grim smile. Because Diane Kellerman had made one crucial mistake. She'd messed with a cop's family. The arrest warrant was signed. The evidence was overwhelming, and justice was about to be served with the full weight of the law behind it. But first, they had to catch her hand based on the frantic activity they could see through her windows. Diane Kellerman knew they were coming. The question was, what else had she prepared for this moment? The SWAT team's battering ram splintered Diane Kellerman's front door at exactly 4:47 p.m. But the house was already empty. Detective Mike Chen stepped through the doorway behind the tactical team, his weapon drawn and every instinct screaming that they were walking into a trap. The silence felt wrong to complete, too orchestrated. Even fleeing suspects left traces of panic behind. This felt like an invitation, clear. The voices echoed from room to room as the team swept through the modest 2-story. Colonial kitchen clear, living room clear, basement Jesus Christ. You need to see this. Mike followed the shouts downstairs and stopped dead at the bottom of the steps. The basement had been converted into what could only be described as a laboratory of malice. 3 folding tables held an array of chemistry equipment that would have impressed a university beaker's distillation apparatus, pH meters, and dozens of bottles filled with liquids ranging from clear to ominous black. But it was the wall that made his blood run cold. Dozens of photographs were tacked to a corkboard in neat rows. Aerial shots of neighborhood pools, close-ups of children swimming, and detailed notes about family schedules. The Chen family's pool featured prominently, with photos of Emma and Josh playing in the water, their faces circled in red marker. "She's been stalking our kids for months," Mike breathed, his hands clenching into fists. Detective Hernandez appeared at his shoulder, her face grim. "It gets worse. Look at this." She pointed to a notebook lying open on the center table. The pages were filled with meticulous handwriting documenting chemical compositions, reaction times, and something that made Mike's vision blur with rage. Detailed observations about which families had young children and when those children typically used their pools. Chen twins daily swim 7:30 a.m. before school. Parents distracted with morning routine. Optimal contamination window 2 to 3 a.m. Concentration. Levels adjusted for child body weight. She calculated the dosage to hurt kids specifically, Hernandez said quietly. "This wasn't random vandalism, Mike. This was attempted murder." The evidence technician photographing the scene called out from the corner, "Detectives, you're going to want to see this computer." The laptop screen showed a detailed map of Maplewood Heights with 17 houses marked in different colors. 7 were marked in red, the pools that had already been contaminated. 10 others glowed yellow, marked as Phase 2 targets. Mike recognized every yellow dot. Every house had children under 10. His radio crackled to life. "All units, we have a possible sighting of suspect vehicle heading east on Maple Ridge Road. Dark blue Honda Civic. License Charlie-Frank-7-2-8-9. She's running," Hernandez said, but Mike was still staring at the computer screen. Something felt wrong about this. Diane Kellerman had been methodical, patient, obsessively careful. Running didn't fit her profile. That's when he noticed that timer in the corner of the laptop screen counting down 0 hours, 47 minutes, and 23 seconds. 0 hours, 47 minutes, and 22 seconds. 0 hours, 47 minutes, and 21 seconds. "Everybody out, now." Mike's shout sent the evidence team scrambling for the stairs. "This whole house is rigged." They evacuated the building in under 3 minutes, Mike grabbing the laptop as they fled. From the safety of the street, he called the bomb squad while watching the timer continue its relentless countdown. 45 minutes, he told Hernandez. "Whatever she's planning, we have 45 minutes to stop it." The laptop's desktop held one more surprise, a video file labeled Final Message. Mike opened it with shaking hands. Diane Kellerman's face filled the screen, her expression eerily calm as she sat in what appeared to be her car. "If you're watching this, Detective Chen, then you found my little laboratory. Congratulations. You're about to understand what real consequences feel like." The camera angle shifted to show she was parked outside Jefferson Elementary School, the same school where Emma and Josh were currently in after-school care. "Your children's laughter kept me awake for months. They're splashing, they're screaming, their absolute disregard for anyone else's peace. I asked nicely. I filed complaints. I tried to be reasonable." Her voice remained disturbingly level. "But you people never listen until something terrible happens." Mike was already running for his car, radioing dispatch as he moved. "All units to Jefferson Elementary, possible threat to children. Suspect is armed and extremely dangerous." The video continued playing on his phone as he drove. "The pools were just the beginning, Detective. A warning shot. But you've forced my hand by involving the police, by treating me like a criminal instead of a concerned neighbor." Diane's face moved closer to the camera, her eyes bright with fanatical conviction. "So now your precious children get to experience real fear. The kind of fear I felt every day listening to their noise, watching their entitled parents ignore everyone else's suffering." The video cut to footage of the elementary school playground, clearly shot from a distance with a telephoto lens. Emma and Josh were visible on the monkey bars, laughing and playing with their classmates. "I've been watching them, Detective Chen, learning their patterns, their vulnerabilities. Did you know they always use the same water fountain after recess? The one near the east entrance? Such creatures of habit, children." Mike's speedometer hit 90 as he raced through suburban streets, his emergency lights clearing traffic ahead. Of him, the timer on the laptop now showed 38 minutes. "The chemical compound I've placed in their school's water system is much more concentrated than what I used in the pools," Diane continued conversationally. "Faster acting, more definitive in its effects. Your children will have approximately 10 minutes from first exposure to seek medical attention. Of course, that assumes anyone realizes what's happening in time. The school was in sight now, its afternoon dismissal already in progress. Parents lined up in cars along the circular drive, children streaming out of the building in groups. Mike could see the aftercare kids playing on the far playground too far away to hear him shouting. "You have a choice to make, Detective," Diane's voice continued from his phone. "You can spend your remaining time trying to find and neutralize my surprise at the school. Or you can come and stop me from doing this to the other 10 families on my list. You see, I'm currently parked outside the Riverside Elementary School. Across town, where the Morrison twins are in their swimming lesson, such a lovely indoor pool they have there. So many children in the water right now." Mike slammed on his brakes in the school parking lot, his mind racing through impossible calculations. To schools, dozens of children at risk, and not enough. Time to save them all. His radio crackled with updates from the units pursuing the Honda Civic. Suspect vehicle located abandoned at Riverside Elementary. No sign of the suspect. Building is being evacuated. But Mike knew Diane was still watching. Somehow, still orchestrating this nightmare from wherever she was hiding. The woman who'd spent months planning her revenge wasn't going to be caught by a simple car chase. He burst through the doors of Jefferson Elementary, his badge clearing a path through confused teachers and administrators. "Water contamination. Emergency," he shouted. "Nobody drinks anything. Shut down all water fountains immediately." The principal, a thin woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Detective, what are you talking about?" "Our water system was just inspected last week. Diane Kellerman poisoned it." Mike was already heading for the maintenance room, following the building schematics he'd memorized during Emma and Josh's enrollment. "She's the pool poisoner, and she's escalated to targeting schools." The maintenance room's door was locked, but Mike's shoulder made short work of it. Inside, the building's water system hummed and gurgled through a maze of pipes and filtration equipment. And sitting innocuously next to the main intake valve was a small plastic container, empty except for a few drops of the same oily residue he'd seen in his pool that morning. The timer on his phone showed 29 minutes. Mike called Hernandez. "While photographing the evidence, she's already contaminated Jefferson's water system. Get hazmat here now, and get every kid in this building to the hospital for precautionary screening." "Mike, we found something else at her house, a manifesto, detailing plans for contaminating the water supplies of 6 different schools. This isn't just about your family anymore. He's trying to poison the entire district." As if summoned by his words, Mike's phone buzzed with a new video message from Diane. Her face appeared on screen again, but this time she was standing in what looked like a water treatment facility, industrial pipes and control panels visible behind her. "Surprise, Detective, while you were playing hero at the elementary schools. I've been visiting the Maplewood Heights Municipal Water Treatment Plant. Did you know they only have 2 security guards on the evening shift? Such a trusting community you have here." Mike felt the world tilt beneath him. The municipal plant supplied water to over 40,000 residents, including every school, hospital, and home in the district. "I have enough concentrated compound to contaminate the entire system," Diane continued, holding up a large metal container. "Every tap, every fountain, every swimming pool will be toxic within 6 hours. Unless, of course, you want to make a deal." The video cut to a view of the treatment plant's main control room, where 2 security guards lay motionless on the floor. Mike couldn't tell if they were unconscious or dead. "Here's my Mike Chen didn't call his wife. He didn't alert his captain. Instead, he pulled up Diane Kellerman's personnel file from the university database and studied her. Photograph until he could see her face when he closed his eyes, 26 minutes, had become 21. The countdown to citywide water contamination showed 5 hours, 47 minutes, and 33 seconds, but Mike had noticed something in Diane's final video that she probably didn't realize she'd revealed: the reflection in the control room's monitors behind her. The timestamp showed she'd recorded the message for hours ago, before she'd even poisoned the school's water system. She wasn't at the water treatment plant now. She was somewhere else, watching and waiting for him to break. Mike called the plant. "Directly, this is Detective Chen, badge number 4847. I need to speak to your senior technician immediately." "Detective, This is Bill Morrison, plant supervisor. We heard about the school emergency. Is there a threat to our facility? Potentially. I need you to run a full contamination check on all intake systems, and I need you to do it without setting off any alarms or alerting anyone outside your core team. Can you do that quietly? Give me 15 minutes. While Morrison ran his tests, Mike studied the building schematics for the water treatment plant on his laptop. If Diane was planning to contaminate the municipal supply, she'd need access to either the main intake pipes or the chemical treatment tanks. Both areas required security clearance. She didn't have, unless she had help. Mike pulled up the employee records for the water treatment facility and cross-referenced them with the university's chemistry department. One name appeared on both lists: David Kellerman, Diane's ex-husband, who worked as a water quality technician at the municipal plant. The divorce records painted a picture of bitter custody battles, financial disputes, and restraining orders that had expired just 3 months ago. If Diane had convinced her ex-husband to help her, his phone rang. "Detective, this is Morrison. I've run every test we have. Water quality is normal across all systems. No contamination detected." Mike's relief lasted exactly 3 seconds until he realized what that meant. If the water wasn't contaminated, then Diane's video was a lie designed to flush him out into the open. But why? The answer came in a text message from an unknown number, parking lot behind Jefferson Elementary. "Come alone, or I start with the Morrison twins at Riverside." Mike looked out the school window and saw a figure standing in the shadows between 2 cars in the back parking lot. Even at this distance, he recognized Diane Kellerman's silhouette. She'd been here the whole time, watching him race around, trying to save everyone. Waiting for him to exhaust his options and come to her, Mike checked his service weapon and headed for the back exit, calling Hernandez as he walked. "I'm about to confront the suspect behind Jefferson Elementary. If you don't hear from me in 10 minutes, assume I'm compromised. Mike, wait for backup." He ended the call and stepped into the evening air. Diane Kellerman stood 30 yards away, her hands visible and empty, wearing the same calm expression from her videos. "Detective Chen," she called out conversationally. "I was beginning to think you'd never figure it out." "Figure what out?" Mike kept his hand near his weapon, but didn't draw it. Yet that none of this was ever about the water treatment plant, or mass casualties, or elaborate revenge schemes. Diane took a step closer, her voice carrying easily across the empty parking lot. "This was about getting you alone, away from backup and protocol and all the things that make you feel safe." Mike felt ice form in his stomach. "What do you want?" "Want you to understand what powerlessness feels like." Diane's voice remained eerily level. "For months I asked politely for quiet. I filed complaints through proper channels. I tried to resolve this like a civilized person. And you ignored me. Your wife laughed at me. Your children continued to scream and splash and make my life miserable. So you poisoned pools where kids swim. I gave you a warning, a demonstration of what could happen if you continued to ignore reasonable requests." Diane pulled something from her Pokita, small remote control device. "But you escalated instead of listening. You brought police into a simple neighborhood dispute. You treated me like a criminal." Mike's radio crackled. With an update from the hazmat team, in the silence that followed, he heard something that made his blood freeze. Children's voices from inside the school. "You said the schools were evacuated," he said slowly. "Riverside was evacuated." "This school, double quotes, Diane smiled. "Well, aftercare ends at 6 p.m., doesn't it? All those children still inside, including your precious twins, breathing air that's been circulating through a ventilation system I've had access to for the past hour." Mike's hand moved toward his weapon, but Diane held up the remote. "I wouldn't do that, Detective. This device is connected to a much more sophisticated system than you've been chasing. The moment my heart rate spikes, or if I don't input a code every 15 minutes, the ventilation system releases a concentrated aerosol throughout the building. You're bluffing, am I?" Diane tilted her head toward the school. "Listen carefully." In the distance, Mike could hear coughing, faint at first, then more persistent. Children's voices calling for their teachers, adults responding with growing alarm. "It's already begun," Diane said softly, a mild irritant for now, just enough to cause discomfort. But it builds in the bloodstream, detective. In about 8 minutes, those coughs will become choking. In 12 minutes, respiratory distress. In 15 minutes, Mike drew his weapon. Stop it. Now, I can stop it. Diane held up the remote again. All I have to do is enter the neutralization code. But first, you're going to do something for me. What? You're going to call your wife and tell her that Emma and Josh died because their father chose his job over their safety. Because you could have prevented all of this by simply asking them to play more quietly. But your pride wouldn't let you admit that a single woman had a legitimate complaint. The coughing from the school was getting worse. Mike could hear adults shouting now, coordinating evacuation procedures. But evacuation took time, and according to Diane, time was the one thing they didn't have. Make the call, detective. Raised his phone, but instead of calling Sarah, he activated the emergency response protocol that would flood the area with paramedics and hazmat teams. Then he looked Diane Kellerman in the eye and made a decision that went against every protocol he'd ever learned. He holstered his weapon. You want me to understand powerlessness? Mike said, walking closer. You want me to feel what you felt. When no one would listen to your complaints, Diane's finger hovered over the remote. Stay back. I'm not going to hurt you, Diane. I'm going to listen. Mike stopped 10 feet away, his hands visible and empty. Tell me what you really want. For the first time since this nightmare began, uncertainty flickered across Diane's face. I want them to stop. The noise, the chaos, the constant reminder that some people get to be happy while others suffer alone. The children in that school, they're not your enemy, they're just kids. They're symbols of everything that's wrong with this world. Entitled, loud, inconsiderate, they're 6 years old. Diane, they don't even understand what consideration means yet. Mike took another step closer. Behind him, he could hear sirens approaching. Hernandez had gotten his message. But the cavalry. Wouldn't matter if Diane released the aerosol before they could neutralize it. You know what I think? Mike said conversationally. I think you're tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of fighting a war against children. Tired of carrying all that poison inside you. Diane's hand was shaking now. You don't understand. I understand that you're a brilliant chemist who spent months planning an elaborate revenge against people who were just trying to live their lives. I understand that you've put dozens of innocent children at risk because adults didn't handle a noise complaint to your satisfaction. The remote trembled in Diane's grip. They deserved no, Mike said firmly. They didn't deserve any of this. And deep down you know that. The first hazmat truck rounded the corner, followed by 2 ambulances and a fire engine. Diane looked at the approaching vehicles, then back at Mike, her composure finally cracking. It's too late, she whispered. I can't take it back. Yes. You can? Mike extended his hand. Give me the remote, Diane. End this now, and maybe some judge somewhere will remember that you stopped it before anyone died. For a moment that stretched like eternity, Diane Kellerman stared at the device in her hand. The sirens grew louder, the coughing from the school more desperate, and Mike held his breath while a poisoner decided whether to become a murderer. Then Diane dropped the remote and collapsed to her knees. 20 months of rage and isolation. Finally consuming her from within, Mike snatched the device and punched in the code. She whispered a sequence that corresponded to her ex-husband's birthday, the day her life had fallen apart and she'd started planning her revenge against the world. The neutralization system activated with a soft hum, and within minutes, the coughing from the school began to subside. The hazmat teams swarmed the building anyway, conducting thorough decontamination procedures. While paramedics checked every child and staff member for exposure symptoms, Emma and Josh Chen emerged from the school tired and confused, but unharmed. Running to their father's arms, as Diane Kellerman was loaded into a police transport van, Dad